Welcome to episode 33 of the Practical EdTech Podcast. I'm your host, Richard Byrne, and this week I've been on vacation from school, and my voice is back to full strength, so let's get right into this week's news and notes from the world of EdTech and the world of technology in general. First up, Google has added a couple of features to Google Docs that I think are going to be quite handy and also make it faster to write a good document. So what's been added? Google has now added autocorrect to Google Docs in the web version of Google Docs and also added Smart Compose mode. These are both features that we have in Gmail or have had in Gmail for a while now, and they're now being rolled out to Google Docs. It started rolling out this week and will roll out over the next few weeks. So if you don't see it right away, it will be there eventually. To check if you have it or not, go into the Tools menu and select Preferences. And if you have it, it will pop up as one of the options under Preferences. Now, it's supposed to be on by default once you get it, but you may need to turn it on anyway. The other thing to note about this, you do have to be using Google Docs in a G Suite domain, whether that's G Suite for Education or G Suite for Business or G Suite for Nonprofits. In other words, it's not available if you're just using the Gmail version of Google Docs. Nat Geo, National Geographic, one of my favorite channels, has a new or relatively new video about volcanoes. It's part of their 101 series. Their 101 series has actually more than 101 videos now. It has 100 plus videos covering a whole bunch of topics in science and geography. They've released a relatively new version of Volcanoes 101. Definitely worth watching if you're looking for a video about volcanoes to use in your classroom. It's a 5-minute long video, explains the types of volcanoes, why volcanoes appear where they do in the world, or why there's concentrations of volcanoes where they are in the world, and what makes volcanoes erupt. So check it out. Speaking of video, InVideo is a new tool that I learned about from Product Hunt, one of my favorite places, producthunt.com. So InVideo is a new tool that lets you take your documents or your blog posts and turn them into videos. It uses a little bit of AI to detect what the keywords are in your document or your blog post, and then it spits out a little audio slideshow style video based on those documents or blog posts. It's a little bit like Lumen 5, which I reviewed last summer, and I used for a while last summer. An oldie but a goodie in terms of tool recommendations is Online-Convert. I had forgotten about this tool actually, and then a friend of mine asked me about converting PDFs into Word documents, which was kind of a strange request, but he wanted to kind of update some older PDFs that he'd gotten from a workshop, and he wanted to update them and edit them in Word. So Online-Convert offers a PDF to Word conversion tool, offers a bunch of other tools too. If you're looking for ways to change video formats or change audio formats, offers a ton of tools for that, but check out Online-Convert if you need to convert any kind of files. It's leap year. In case you didn't know, there's 29 days in February this year, and leap year will be coming. So our 29th day is 8 days away, just over a week away. Thanks to Larry Ferlazzo, I learned about a neat little video called Leap Year for Kids, and it explains why we have leap years. Check it out. Cute little video. Perfect for your elementary school students or maybe even your middle school students who need to know the answer to why do we have leap years. Speaking of kids, a new iPad app / iPhone app that I discovered this week and really like. It's called Animal Photos for Kids. In fact, I put it on my iPad that I occasionally use with my own kids. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's just pictures of animals. That's it. Just pictures of animals. Nothing else to it. Just a bunch of pictures of animals. There's no ads on it. There's no login. No sign-in required. It's just a bunch of pictures of animals. All right, so, check that out. Dictation has been a feature in Microsoft Word for quite a while if you use Word in your web browser or you use Word on a Windows computer. That's been available for quite a while. It's now available for Windows for Mac. So if you use Word for Mac. If you use Word on your Mac, there's now a dictation option available to all Word for Mac users. Two last little news and notes pieces here. How to install WordPress on a subdomain. Probably a very small percentage of you are interested in this topic, but I'm going to mention it anyway because I was looking at it. I was trying to set up some subdomains, and I'd done it years ago. I set up a subdomain years ago to have a discussion forum on a project I was building. Kind of had forgotten how to do it, so I went and looked at WP Engine, which is the host for Practical EdTech and all my other WordPress-based blogs. So everything but Free Tech for Teachers, basically, is where I host all my other projects. WPEngine.com has a great article on how to install WordPress on a subdomain. So how to set up a subdomain. So if you're wondering what a subdomain is, let's say I have practicaledtech.com. That's my domain. If I want to have a subdomain, I could have a subdomain like richard.practicaledtech.com or summercamp.practicaledtech.com, which is why I'm setting it up. Setting up a subdomain for the Practical EdTech Summer Camp, which, by the way, you can still sign up for. If you go to practicaledtech.com and click on the Summer Camp link, you can fill out a little form and get a discount on your registration. So check that out. It's going to be an awesome time. I'm looking forward to it. And last but not least, news and notes. ConvertKit, which is a service that I use for sending out all my emails, so my Free Tech for Teachers daily email and my Practical EdTech Tip of the Week newsletter, which I send out on Sunday evenings. I use ConvertKit for that. Now, I have about 30,000 people in my account, so I pay a lot for it. But ConvertKit does have a new free plan that's available. If you are just starting out building up a newsletter, building up a blog, and you want to be able to email people, do not do it from your personal Gmail account. You will get yourself flagged as a spammer very, very quickly. So use an email service that is set up to manage lists and not make your Gmail a spammy account. ConvertKit.com is a service that I use. There's others out there. MailChimp, FeedBlitz is out there. There's tons of them. Aweber is very popular. Anyway, I use ConvertKit. They have a new free plan. You get 100 users for free, and you can get more users by inviting other people to use it. You can get up to 1,000, your first 1,000 people for free in your list. And ConvertKit has a new landing page builder, which is really, really slick if you want to make some landing pages, some simple pages to get people to opt into your mailing list. It's a great little tool. So check that out, convertkit.com. By the way, don't get paid for mentioning that. I probably should, but I don't. So there it is. Thoughts from my classroom from this past week. Well, we've been on school vacation, which has been great. Hopefully all the crusty crud and germs that have been circulating in my school in February have gotten blown out in the last week. I feel a heck of a lot better, and hopefully all my students do as well. I had 25% of my students were out the week before vacation, so hopefully everyone's feeling better. I'm feeling better. Part of feeling better, I went on an ice fishing trip, my annual ice fishing trip to Moosehead Lake. I started doing this 17 years ago. My first year teaching at Oxford Hills Comprehensive High School, I got invited by some veteran teachers to go on this ice fishing trip, and now I've been going almost every year for the last 17 years. I think I've missed 2 years in there. Moosehead Lake's a great place. But anyway, I mentioned that because I know there's a lot of places, a lot of schools where people feel like they're in little silos. It's just it's a great little community, and I've learned so much from those veteran teachers, many of whom are retired now, but also many contemporaries of my own. It's just a great time to relax. We talk about everything under the sun. Great little trip. All right. Last little thought from my classroom. Because of vacation, and because of snow days that we had, I lost kind of all momentum leading into vacation, and so I feel like coming back next week is going to be like starting up from scratch in a lot of ways, and so kind of fun. It's going to be kind of fun to kind of start with a new topic, new unit, start from scratch. It's going to be fun. All right. Now, some Q&A, questions from readers and viewers and listeners like you. Question from Meredith. Hey, I missed the webinar and I was wondering if there is a recording. Thanks, Meredith. Meredith is referring to the webinar that I did earlier this month, 3 simple steps to encourage technology integration. Yes, there is a recording. It's up on my YouTube channel. You can check it out. Just look for the name of the webinar, and you'll find it right there. So that's that. And by the way, I am going to do a repeat live performance of it, an encore performance of it. I'm going to do an encore performance of it coming up in about a week and a half from now. Question from Anthony, who writes, I hope all is well with you, family, and other endeavors. I'm exploring options to have my students create simple apps. I began testing Thunkable today and was wondering if you have other suggestions. Please let me know. Best, Anthony. I like Thunkable. Thunkable's a nice little tool. I've played around with it. My preference is for the MIT App Inventor. I think if you're really going to get into making simple apps, MIT App Inventor is a great way to go. It has all kinds of features. Really lets kids dive into the programming. They have to do the programming, which I think is really important. It's not just a drag and drop, what you see is what you get editor. They really have to kind of dive into the logic of the programming. So I really like that. The other thing I like about it is kids can test their apps without having to connect their phones. So they don't even have to have a phone, so they can test their apps directly that way. That's the nice thing about it. And by the way, Thunkable is kind of built on the same framework as MIT App Inventor, so might as well just use the original. The other suggestion, the other tool that I like a lot, it's not really great for teaching programming concepts, but if you just want to make an app, glideapps.com is great if you just want to make an app. Make a simple app, put all your data into a spreadsheet, and Glide Apps does all the rest to turn it into an app for you. Doesn't really show kids how the logic works. So if you're looking to get kids into exploring how the logic of an app and the programming of an app happens, the MIT App Inventor is a much better choice than using Glide Apps, which kind of does all that programming work for you. You just kind of have to type in what you want to appear. Question from Gabe. Gabe writes, longtime follower, and I recommend your blog to every educator I meet. Thank you, Gabe. Question. I'm looking for an app to use in the classroom. It would be like a game show buzzer that will tell me which students buzzed in first. That student would then be called upon to answer. If they are incorrect, the app would also list the order in which students buzzed who would be called upon in order for someone to respond with the correct answer. Do you know of any such app? Thanks in advance, Gabe. I don't know of anything exactly like that, Gabe. I get the concept that you're going for, and I think it's a great idea. What I suggested to Gabe, what I wrote back to Gabe, was to just use something simple like Kahoot, where you just have one question quiz, okay? One question quiz game. First student to answer on their device is going to be marked. First student to answer correctly on their device is going to be marked correct, and they're going to appear at the top of the leaderboard. I think that might be a really simple way to accomplish the same thing. I don't know of any other app that's made specifically for what Gabe is describing, though. I'm sure it's out there. I just don't know of it. Okay. So I'll do some research. And the last question comes from Kimberly, who writes, "Hi, Richard. I'm not sure if this is the kind of question you normally answer. I've just got my endorsement for technology integration and will be applying for jobs this spring. Do you have any advice about how to prepare for interviews for tech coaching jobs? Thanks, Kimberly." So, I'm not sure that I'm the best person to give job interview advice on, seeing as I've only interviewed for, I haven't interviewed for a job really to speak of in quite a while. But I have, that's not true. I did, but it was kind of a foregone conclusion. The job I have now, I was the only applicant, and I was asked to apply. So there's that. But I should say that I do have a lot of kind of sales pitches, if you will, where people want me to come in to do a conference or do a workshop, and they want to know a bit more about what I offer and my approach to it. And so I think in that way, it's kind of like a job interview. So this is the advice I would give Kimberly. I would say if you're going into the interview, go in with a clear framework or a clear plan for how you'll encourage other people to use technology. Okay? Having worked on a consulting basis with a lot of schools, I can tell you one of the things that doesn't work very well is just going in to just try to be the problem solver, right? Of just like, hey, can you help me do X, Y, or Z? Like there is a need for that, but I think it's more important to have a vision for how you're going to go about getting more people to use technology in more substantial ways and more impactful ways. So go in with a plan outline for how you're going to do that. Think of a framework. Feel free to borrow the framework that I outlined in the webinar I did a couple weeks ago. Or modify the outline that I used in that webinar a couple weeks ago. But go in with a plan. Don't go in just to answer their questions. Go in with your own plan to present on how you're going to help more teachers, more people use technology in meaningful ways. That's the advice I'd give you. Again, I may not be the best person in the world to ask for that advice, but since you did, that's the advice I'm going to give you. All right. As always, if you have any questions for me about anything, I'll answer them. I may not have the best answer, but I'll answer them. If you have any questions for me, send me an email. richard@byrne.media is my email address. I'll be happy to answer your questions. If you have any feedback for me about the podcast or about anything I've written or published, feel free to, again, send me an email. richard@byrne.media. And last but not least, from the Shameless Commerce division of my life, the Practical EdTech Summer Camp registration is open right now. You can get a discount code by going to practicaledtech.com and clicking on the summer camp link at the top of the page. Fill out the form on that page, and you'll get a discount code emailed to you right away. So check that out, and I hope I see you this summer. Thanks, everyone. Have a fantastic weekend, and I'll see you next week for episode 34 of the Practical EdTech Podcast.